What's up everyone, and welcome to the channel. As you see in the title, this the part 2 of What If Issei was betrayed and became the Crimson Angel God of Domination. But before we start, don't forget to smash that like button and to subscribe to the channel for interesting contents. Now, let's get into part 2. Zenobia had been unconscious for over 4 hours. Well, her body was not weak in any sense of the word, taking a brutal blow from Sererg, then draining all of her energy in a final attack, had drained her completely. When she regained consciousness, she discovered that she was not in as much pain as she expected. "I was wondering when you would wake up," said a voice, making Zenobia turn in her direction. Zenobia stared at the person before turning her head. "What are you doing here, Issei?" Zenobia asked, as the newly reincarnated angel approached her bed. "I saw the game, I heard everything too," Issei muttered, making Zenobia look at him. "Did you come to rejoice? I wouldn't hold it against you if you did, we couldn't win without you," Zenobia said. "No, I'm not that mean. It's true, I trashed them all in the club room, and I don't regret anything I said, but I was also letting off some steam," Issei confessed. "You weren't wrong," Zenobia added, to which Issei nodded. "Then why are you here?" Zenobia asked. "Like I said, I heard everything, particularly what you said," Issei said. Zenobia turned her head away from Issei again. "I meant it, it doesn't matter if you agree or not," Zenobia said. "Who said I don't agree with that? In fact, I was surprised especially that it was you who said all that." "Because?" Issei asked curiously. "The way we all turned against you, it's like what happened to me with the church," Zenobia began, looking back at Issei. "I knew something they didn't want to admit and I was excited about it. Well, the circumstances are not identical. I feel that the intent between both situations is similar enough that I feel guilty and ashamed of myself," Zenobia said. "So, you mean if they weren't similar, you wouldn't feel guilty?" Issei asked curiously. "Don't twist my words, you know I'm not the most intellectual individual," Zenobia said. "What we did was wrong, there's no doubt there. The reason I feel more guilty is because I should have understood enough not to turn on you. I know how much it hurts and then I did the same thing in turn to someone who has been nothing but kind to me," Zenobia said bitterly. "Well, you weren't there at the time, so how can you know?" Issei said, with a small smile. "I realize that. That's why I don't feel bad. The fact that I turned against you, without even understanding your reluctance and thinking only of Ria's, is the reason why I feel bad. The church only thought about maintaining their faith, and I only thought about Ria's. Either way, we were both ignored by those we thought we could trust. That's why I feel bad," Zenobia explained. I never thought of it like that," Issei said thoughtfully, placing a hand under his face and scratching his jaw. "Although, I still find it strange how passionately you defended me. I mean, Sererg can't say whatever he wants, he doesn't know the truth," Issei muttered. "Because, after how much we hurt you, I won't tolerate anyone else doing it again," Zenobia said. "Because? That's what I do not understand," Issei questioned, really confused. "Even at the beginning, I didn't think much of you, just another devil. However, the way he strongly defended Asia and turned against us was interesting," Zenobia said, squeezing Issei's cheek. "However, the moment I knew what I thought of you changed was when you asked Lord Michael to allow me to pray," Zenobia said. "Because? Changed to what?" Issei asked. "That was the point where I realized why others loved you, and the point where I started to love you as more than a friend," Zenobia said with a small smile. "I told you that I wanted to join you in the future, since I wanted to stay with you. However, now that is impossible, and furthermore, we hurt you," Zenobia said with a frown, before walking away again. Issei didn't respond for a minute, absorbing what Zenobia said. "Do you really mean all that?" Issei asked softly, making Zenobia look at him. "Every word. I love you, Issei, even after all that I still love you," Zenobia said, making Issei inhale sharply. "How can I trust you not to hurt me again?" Issei asked quietly. "I pledge my honor as a knight and my sword," Zenobia said forcefully, making Issei look at her with a questioning look. Issei suddenly smiled and eased Zenobia's nerves. "Thank you, Zenobia, and I forgive you, and I would like to be friends again," Issei said hopefully. "I'd like to be more than that, but I'll build my trust with you first," Zenobia said bluntly, causing Issei to laugh. "Well, you know me, I can't stay mad at a big set of tits for long," Issei said, somewhat embarrassed. "Does that mean you will forgive others in time?" Zenobia asked curiously, which caused Issei's face to harden. "Maybe some, but some, especially Ria's and Asia, I won't be able to forgive. They hurt me too much, especially those two," Issei said stiffly. "I understand," Zenobia said, before the door to the room opened. "Oh, I didn't think you'd be here, Red Dragon," said the figure that had just entered the room, closing the door behind him. "Well, I'm sure you've noticed, I'm full of surprises, Sererg," Issei said, as the Bale entered the room. I guess I should apologize first of all. I judged you without knowing the situation, and after how desperately she fought for your honor, I would be wrong to do so," Sarajevo said. Zinovia didn't respond and simply turned her head away with a small blush, a surprising action from the normally calm and also shameless stoic. "Yeah, I didn't expect that from Zinovia either, but I can't say I'm upset about it," Issei said kindly, making Zinovia's blush increase marginally. "Now that you're here, I know I have no right to ask, but what happened?" Sarajevo asked curiously. "As you said, you have no right to ask, this is between me and the Gremory peerage," Issei said, receiving a strong nod from Sarajevo. "True, but she's my cousin, and while beating her in battle helps my reputation, I still worry about her," Sarajevo said firmly. "Is that not the case?" Issei muttered sourly. "If you must know, your cousin is a pretty selfish person when she wants to be and ignores other people and how they feel," Issei said harshly, making Sarajevo narrow his eyes. "What do you mean by that?" Sarajevo asked stiffly. "What I mean is, there are only so many times a person will risk their life to save you, and you will be taken for granted before they break up. That's all that happened," Issei said bitterly. Sarajevo did not respond. "Although, I heard you wanted to face me in battle. I'd love to fight you too, but not for reputation. I want to fight you because you are someone who cares deeply about his peerage, who in turn cares deeply about him. I saw the battle, they are all united. I don't want to fight you because that's how things would have been if I were in this game, nor do I want to fight for prestige. I want to fight you because you are someone worth fighting, someone who fights for others and sacrifices for others too," Issei declared strongly. "Now I feel even guiltier for questioning your worth. I couldn't have asked for a more honorable battle. I would love to face you in battle," Sarajevo said. "That said, I should warn you," Issei said, making Sarajevo look at him with interest. "I saw you use Taki, so it's only fair that I tell you that I learned true Senjutsu from a master." Also, Issei said, before his wings exploded from his back. "I am now an angel and I am able to use light as my weapon, something that is absolutely toxic for a devil," Issei finished saying. Sarajevo simply smiled. "I'm already getting excited," Sarajevo said with anticipation. "In any case, letting go of my wings broke my Kai cloak, so I'm going to need to leave now. However, I look forward to our next battle, also, see you later Zinovia," Issei said, before disappearing in a burst of light. "That sure is something, Issei," Sarajevo commented with a smile, before leaving the room, leaving Zinovia alone. "He is," Zinovia thought, happy that Issei had forgiven her. Line break. Issei arrived home and was surprised to find someone there. "Irina, what are you doing here? Also, why did angels suddenly barge into my house this week?" Issei asked, before whispering the second part. Irina was sitting on the couch and was restless. Issei," struggled Irina, before she simply stood up and offered something to Issei, head bowed. Issei looked at her surprised. "Is this what I think it is?" Issei asked curiously, as he took the offered item. "Yes, I've kept it all this time," Irina said happily, with a forced smile. Issei looked at the object, it was a cardboard dagger, held together with duct tape. "Why are you giving me this?" Issei asked quietly. "Issei, I'm sorry," Irina said sadly. Issei looked at her and frowned. Issei returned the cardboard dagger, and Irina felt like her heart had been ripped out. Issei then disappeared in a flash of light, and Irina fell to her knees, tears beginning to fall from her eyes. "He won't forgive me," Irina thought sadly, before another flash of light occurred and Issei was in front of her again. "Issei," Irina said with a snort, which turned into surprise when she saw what Issei was holding. In Issei's hand, there was another crudely made cardboard dagger. "Issei, you kept yours too," Irina said surprised, from her place on the ground. Issei offered her his hand and she took it, standing up and quickly wiped her eyes. "Of course I did. You were my first and only friend growing up. When you were gone, it was one of the only things I had left to remember you, even if I thought you were a child," Issei said quietly. Irina gave a small giggle at this, but was strangled. "I still can't believe you thought I was a boy," Irina said softly, as she blinked the tears away from her. "You know, Irina, of all the people who turned on me, yours probably hurt me the most," Issei said sadly. Irina looked at Issei sadly. "I'm sorry, Issei, I didn't know what happened to you," Irina said. "I know, that's why I'm not mad at you like I am at those four," Issei said, growling towards the end. "But even before all this, before Drag, before I became a devil, before everything, you were my friend," Issei said sadly. "I am so sorry, Issei," Irina said through tears. "Out of everyone there, you should have been on my side. It really hurt when you agreed with everyone that I was the bad guy," Issei said, as he winced in pain. "Issei, what can I do to make it up to you?" Irina asked desperately. Issei thought about this for a moment. "Show me your wings," Issei said, and after a moment of confusion, Irina complied, revealing the 2 wings of hers to Issei. If you have impure thoughts outside of love, you will fall, right? Issei questioned rhetorically, already knowing the answer. Irina nodded her head. So kiss me here and now. Issei said, making Irina blush. What? Irina stuttered embarrassedly. If you really love me you won't fall, right? If you don't fall, it will mean that you love me, you really love me. Gabriel told me that an angel who follows his heart, not out of sin, but out of love, can never fall. Therefore, if you really love me, this will prove it without a doubt. Issei said calmly. Irina took a moment to absorb what Issei had said and nodded her head. You will do it? Issei asked curiously. I will do that. I love you, Issei, and if this is what I have to do to prove it, I'll gladly do it. Irina declared boldly, as she placed her cardboard dagger on the coffee table. Issei walked towards the table as well, placing his dagger next to Irina's, and turned to look at her. Irina's heartbeat accelerated as she approached Issei, taking in his stern face and calm brown eyes. Irina approached Issei, until she was a hair's breadth away from touching him, and tilted her head up, eyes half-lidded, as she leaned in. Issei brought her face closer to Irina's, so close to her that she could feel her warm breath against him. Her face. Last chance to change your mind. Issei whispered. My mind is made up, I love you. Whispered Irina, before pressing her lips against Issei's. Issei returned the kiss, wrapping his left arm around Irina's waist, while his right gently caressed her cheek and neck, deepening the kiss. They had both closed their eyes and in that moment, they only felt each other. Irina was happy, she had been waiting for this moment for years, and after what happened, worried that it would never happen, but Issei was actually kissing her. After a few more seconds, the two broke the kiss, eyes slowly opening. Irina looked happily into Issei's eyes. Issei glanced behind Irina briefly, before returning his gaze to Irina's. I guess this means you really love me too. Issei said happily, causing Irina to shed a tear. Irina still had 2 pure white wings behind her, and that was all the evidence Issei needed. However, suddenly, Issei started crying, which surprised Irina, even more so when he hugged her and buried his face in her shoulder. Please promise me. Issei said weakly. Please promise me that you will always love me and never sleep with me again. Issei continued through tears. You had so much more of my heart than anyone else in that room because you weren't just a girl I liked, you were my friend even before all that. Issei said, making Irina's eyes widen. As far as everyone in that room you were irreplaceable to me. Issei said, making Irina's heart soar. Irina gently removed Issei's head from her shoulder and looked into his bloodshot eyes. I love you Issei, now and forever. Irina said, before giving Issei another kiss, which she happily reciprocated. I love you too, Irina, now and always. Issei said with a smile. Line break. Issei woke up with a smile on his face as he jumped out of bed. Things were looking up once again. Irina and Zenobia had been forgiven, and both had shown true devotion to him. He felt a tingle inside, just remembering how things were with Irina. He was really glad that his childhood friend was back on his side. Entering the bathroom, Issei turned on the hot water for the shower, and once it was at a good temperature, he entered. After showering, he grabbed a towel and dried his body, before wrapping it around his waist and taking another to wipe his face, standing in front of the mirror. Wiping away the last of the moisture, he used it to clean the mirror and take a look at himself. As he removed the towel, he shivered. Aw, what's wrong, not happy to see me? The woman in the mirror said. What do you want? Haven't you done enough? Growled Issei hatefully, staring at Rainer's face, the constant source of his torment. What have I done? I never hurt you, Issei. Said Rainer. Issei growled, baring his teeth. What's happening? Are you still upset because you never got to feel my breasts? Is that so? Rainer joked. Issei clenched his fist. Or maybe, you're just upset because deep down, you know that all those girls are just like me. Rainer said darkly. Issei's fist shot out and smashed the mirror, shattering it heavily and leaving a hole in the middle, but he could still see Rainer's face around him. Will you die for me? Line break. Issei suddenly sat up abruptly on the bed. Damn it. Issei growled in annoyance, before feeling 2 mounds pressing against his back. Naya, was it the crow again? Kuroka asked curiously, as she wrapped her arms around Issei. Yeah. Issei murmured, relaxing his right fist that he had unknowingly clenched. You know, no matter what she did, you'll always have me. Kuroka purred comfortingly. Yeah. Issei murmured, relaxing a little more. That is better. Besides, who cares about her, or even them? Kuroka questioned. You know, you can't fool me. Issei said quietly. What do you mean? Kuroka asked curiously. I know you want to fix things with Koshirin. Issei said. I know, but I don't want to hurt you either. Okay Kuroka. No matter what she did to me, she is your sister. The love for a big sister is something to cherish. Issei said quietly. What is love for a loved one? Kuroka added. I know, Issei said, before falling silent. Well, how were things yesterday? I came here late at night and felt the presence of an angel that was not you. Kuroka questioned. Zenovia and I fixed things. After that, I came here, where Irina was waiting, and we also patched things up between us, maybe even more than that. Counted Issei. Oh, is that so? Do I have competition? Kuroka joked. No, the pieces of my heart that you two have are very different. Irina was my childhood friend, even before all this, and you accepted me for who I am, even if it was also because of your own ambitions, and you took my virginity. Issei said seriously. That sounds like you, and I don't have a deep emotional connection at all. Kuroka said, frowning, only for Issei to turn his head and kiss her. You love me too, and I love you, even if it's pretty new. Issei added. That's more like that. Kuroka smiled, before giving Issei another kiss. Thank God it's Friday. Wow, sorry about that. Issei said, with a deep sigh, before apologizing to Kuroka when he felt her shudder. Well, I guess you're an angel, I'll learn to deal with that. Kuroka said, with a wry smile. Yes, I'll try to be careful, but now I have to go to school. Issei said, as he tried to get up, only for Kuroka to quickly move in front of him and sit on his lap. Are you sure you don't want to do something else first? Said Kuroka, squinting at Issei. Issei picked up the loving Nekashu and put her on the bed, before getting up and heading to the shower. Kuroka pouted as Issei left her there and heard him turn on the water. She was about to leave, before Issei poked his head into the room. Good? Are you coming or what? Issei asked jokingly, before disappearing again. Kuroka gave a Cheshire smile, before following Issei. Line break. Issei walked into his classroom, with a small smile on his face, and sat at his desk, content. What are you so happy about? Motohama asked suspiciously. Hey, the usual. Issei replied. Usual? What would that be? Mitsuda asked. Issei simply smiled, causing his two perverted friends to fume. Damn you, Issei. They both shouted, to which Issei laughed. Good morning, Issei. How are you today? Irina asked very cheerfully, while she was standing to the left of Issei's desk. Good morning, Irina, Issei replied, causing Irina to emit lightning bolts. Excellent. The presence of the Lord is very strong today. Irina responded happily. Glad to hear it. Issei said, with a nod and a small smile, enjoying Irina's presence significantly more than before. So how are you, Issei? Irina asked curiously. Will you die for me? Issei flinched for a moment, but Irina noticed. Are you still thinking about the past? Irina asked, frowning. Issei's expression soured for a moment before he felt Irina place her hand on his shoulder. It's okay, Issei. Irina said, before approaching Issei. I will never leave your side again. Whispered Irina softly, as she gave Issei a beautiful smile. Issei smiled back once he leaned back. Thanks, Irina, I needed that. Issei confessed, which only made his childhood friend's smile grow. Whenever. What are friends for? Irina commented, before taking a seat to Issei's immediate left. Returning to the front, Issei was greeted by Mitsuda and Motohama's sour expressions. Another beautiful girl, Issei. Don't you already have one? Stop hoarding them all. Motohama complained. At least share some with us. Mitsuda added, with Motohama nodding in agreement. No. Issei said, annoyed, getting up from his chair and slamming his hands on his desk. If you want girls, get them. They both have traits that girls find desirable, like athleticism and intelligence, but they do nothing but watch stupid porn all the time. Issei shouted, making Motohama and Mitsuda gasp, and a few girls in the class looked at him in shock. Did you just say that porn was stupid? A girl murmured to her closest neighbor. Blasphemy. The two perverts shouted. Yeah, well, this is what I think about your stupid porn. Issei said, as he approached Irina and grabbed her face. Issei, what are you doing? MMPH Irina began, only to be interrupted mid-word, as Issei leaned down and pressed his lips against hers. The class gasped at Issei's brazen actions, while Mitsuda and Motohama looked like they had been stabbed. Issei decided to be a little more adventurous in his kisses this time, and gently pushed his tongue into Irina's mouth, who allowed it after a brief moment. Irina moaned into her kiss, not caring that at that moment she was kissing her, already perverted and detested by most of her childhood friend, in the middle of her classroom, full of her classmates. To her, there was only Issei and her at that moment. After a full 30 seconds of tongue fighting, Issei leaned back, saving himself a moment to look at Irina lovingly, before turning back to his former perverted siblings. And that's why your porn is stupid, it pales in comparison to a real woman. Issei declared, before sitting down with a smile, looking at Irina, who had now recovered and was blushing a little, under the gaze of her classmates. Well, I guess you feel better now. she commented on a new arrival to the class. Issei followed the voice and saw Zenobia with her usual stoic expression. Yes, I guess so. Issei said, giving Zenobia a smile as well. Zenobia then took out a condom and looked at Issei. Too soon? Zenobia asked curiously, as the rest of the class looked at her in shock. A bit. Issei chuckled, to which Zenobia nodded before putting the condom back on wherever she got it from. When Zenobia went to take her seat, the teacher finally appeared just as the bell rang and class began. Line break. After a fairly normal day of class, during which Issei spent quite a bit of time thinking, the day was over. Gathering his things and preparing to leave, Issei was approached by the two former exorcists, turned into supernatural beings. Issei, can I come now? Irina asked anxiously. I'd like to continue spending time with you for now, too. Zenobia added, with a shake of her head. Sure, why not? Issei said happily, after which the three left. In the classroom the trio had just left, a certain green-eyed blonde was staring sadly at her lap. Issei-san, Asia thought sadly, before grabbing her things and heading to the club room. Line break. As the two angels and the devil approached the main door of their school, another blonde, this one with blue eyes, was waiting for Issei, who stopped to listen to the figure. Issei, can I talk to you? Asked Ravel timidly, a little surprised to see his romantic interest walking with two people, which he had previously reported. Sure. It's fast. Issei asked, with a raised eyebrow. Not particularly. Ravel responded. In that case, follow me, we can discuss whatever is in my new house. Issei said coldly, as he began walking again, now with three people following him. As the newly formed quartet left the school, a pair of violet eyes watched Issei's back intently. I still don't know how, but I don't let the only man who accepted me for who I really am, walk away from me. Akeno thought determinedly. Line break. As the group approached Issei's apartment, Issei quickly used his newly acquired senjutsu skill to detect if Kuroka was there. After a moment, he confirmed that she had returned to where her group was, which Issei still didn't know. When the group finally reached Issei's room in the apartment block that belonged to him alone, he led in his three guests, who sat on his couch while he stood. So what's up, Ravel? Issei asked casually, crossing his arms over his chest and leaning against the wall behind him, looking at her guests. Well, my mother would like to talk to you. I'm not sure why, although I have my suspicions. Ravel said succinctly. I see. Issei said, rubbing his chin in thought. Well, if that's the case, I'd be happy to do it, maybe I can track down Saraerg and fight him. Issei said thoughtfully. If you wish, I could make the necessary preparations for you and alert Saraerg Bale-sama of your intentions. Ravel said quickly. Really? That would be great, Ravel, thank you. Issei said, giving the phoenix a genuine smile, which made her heart flutter. Or, of course, it's only natural that you take advantage of an organizer as skilled as me. Ravel said, with her usual tone. If that's the case, how would you feel about helping me deal with all my Op-I Dragon stuff? To be honest, apart from changing where the money goes, a lot of other organizational things are going through my head. I could use your help if it wasn't a problem. Issei asked modestly. I would be more than happy to do so. Ravel replied, making Issei smile once more. Thank you, Ravel, I will truly be in your debt for this. It was a nightmare just making the transfer. Issei said humbly, before letting out a chuckle towards the end. Leave it all to me, I'll be the best manager ever. Ravel declared proudly. Good. In that case, if Saraerg is free, I will go to the underworld tomorrow, considering it is the weekend. Issei said, receiving an attentive nod from Ravel. At this moment, someone knocked on the door. Sensing the presence of a certain annoying fallen angel, Issei frowned. What do you want, Azazel? Issei shouted, loud enough for the faction leader to hear. Can I pass? Azazel asked through the door. If you're alone, sure. Issei said, after which the fallen angel entered. You've got company, interesting company in that. Azazel commented, looking at the three sitting on his couch. What do you want? Issei asked tiredly. Well, it's not so much what I want, rather what someone else wants. It's pretty sensitive information right now, so I'll just say that someone who isn't directly allied with us wants to meet with you. Azazel said. Why do I get the feeling you're leaving out crucial information? Issei asked, his eyes narrowed. You should know that I would never do that. Azazel laughed, but he didn't fool Issei. So I can't tell who this person is, only that they have a fairly high position in the world. Azazel said sincerely. I see, Issei said slowly. Well, that's all I had to say for now, see you around. Azazel said, before leaving. So, anything you want to do now? Issei asked curiously. Not particularly, since you said it's too soon for us to have a baby. Zenobia said, making Irina and Ravel widen their eyes. Zenobia? You are still too far ahead. Irina exclaimed. That's such inappropriate behavior. Ravel commented, appearing offended. Any other suggestions? Issei asked. After a brief pause, Issei proposed an idea. Well, we could always go to the underworld now. Maybe Sererg is free and I can fight now, plus see whatever Lady Phoenix wants. Suggested Issei. Well, I don't care, but is it a good idea for two angels to come to the underworld? Zenobia asked. True, such a move could cause discontent, especially as some are discontented that the Red Dragon has now defected to heaven. They may try something, if not against you, then possibly against Irina. Ravel said hesitantly. Alright. Anyone who tries to fight me will understand why you shouldn't provoke those who can use your weakness against you, and if anyone tries to touch Irina, I will just take care of them where they stand. Issei said calmly, before growling towards the end. Irina's heart soared at this, with Ravel and Zenobia hoping that no one would actually try anything. Very well then, we can leave immediately. Ravel said, as he stood up and motioned for the rest to gather, before using a special magic circle, which he could bring all kinds of supernatural creatures to the underworld. Line break. The four of them reappeared outside the Phoenix mansion. While Zenobia, Irina and Issei looked around with interest, Ravel walked towards the doors and spoke to the guards stationed there. After a brief conversation, the doors opened and Ravel gestured for the three to follow her. Any problem? Issei asked curiously, as he examined the land of the Phoenix clan. No, there was some hesitation at your presence, but my assurance was enough to dissuade any negative thoughts towards you and Irina. Ravel answered succinctly. As the quartet entered the mansion, Irina and Zenobia looked around in surprise, while Issei simply raised an eyebrow. It's very luxurious. Issei commented, seeing enough gold to buy a continent in the hallway alone. The ceiling was very high, easily more than 10 meters above ground level. The hallway was expansive, so much so that it seemed like it was a room in itself. Dozens of phoenix statues made of pure gold were placed every few meters, somehow able to remain solid, even with the bright flames burning within the mouth of each sculpture. Yes, well, it has been built by generations of Phoenix clansmen. Some of the building's fixtures are older than the current Satans, and others are as old as you. The Phoenix is concerned with the regeneration of ashes, and this is reflected in the structure's design. Ravel explained. I'll show you both after alerting my mother. Issei, stay here so someone can take you to your mother. Ravel requested, before leading Irina and Zenobia. Issei stood there silently, simply examining the luxurious hallway with interest. After a minute, Issei's guide arrived and it certainly wasn't someone he was expecting. Hello, Red Dragon, we meet again. Said Riser, one of Ravel's older brothers and someone Issei had defeated in the past. How are you, Riser? I remember I had traumatized you a little. Issei asked blankly. Riser grimaced as he remembered his past, before passing by. In any case, I'll take you to mother, follow me. Riser said, before turning on his heel, with Issei following behind him. As they walked, only the sound of their light footsteps could be heard. The tension was quite strong between the two for different reasons. Finally, Riser broke the silence. I realize this is personal, but I'm curious and given the state of things, I think I have some personal interest in this as well. Riser began, before Issei intervened. Let me guess, you want to know what happened to Gremory, right? Issei questioned, causing Riser to stop momentarily and face Issei, before walking away again. Gremory, how strange, such a cold way of speaking. Commented Riser. Cold? Barely. Issei mocked. This is a woman you almost killed yourself for. I find it hard to believe you would act like this. Riser said. Ah, how surprising. You could even see what she couldn't, funny. Issei said exhausted. At this point, Riser stopped walking completely and turned to look at Issei. What do you mean? What can I see that she couldn't? She questioned Riser in genuine confusion. Riser, you saw how hard I fought for Gremory, both during the ranking game and in our single combat battle. Why do you think he would go that far? Risk of total destruction. Sacrifice parts of my body permanently. Putting my own being in danger, which could end with my total eradication. What do you think that means? Issei asked, as she too stopped walking. Well, initially, I thought you were simply fighting harder because of Gremory's famous kindness, and that was what motivated you to try your hardest. Riser began. And what did you think happened next? Issei questioned. Lust at first, but then I thought to myself, that's what motivated me, what she found disgusting. Riser answered honestly. However, towards the end, just before you defeated me, I saw something different, love. Finished Riser. I see you saw that I loved her at that time. Now, imagine that I do it again and again, several times, each time, closer and closer to death. Tell me, don't you think she should have realized that he loved her by then? Issei asked darkly. Although he did. Riser said, before noticing Issei's stony expression. Didn't she do it? Finished Riser. No. She did not do it. The spoiled princess that Ria's Gremory is, she only thought about her own needs and desires. Her humble pawn, one who literally sacrificed a limb to protect her interests, was reprimanded for not understanding her and being unable to show her love. Apparently, almost dying on multiple occasions just to keep a smile on someone's face is not proof of one's love for another. I honestly think you're the lucky one, Riser. Despite everything, you never had a broken and shattered heart for a woman you loved and for whom you would give your life. Now, however, if she were to express to me the undying love of her, I would laugh in her face. Issei said calmly. Will you die for me? She's a real devil. She growled Issei unhappily. Riser was momentarily speechless and thus continued walking, leading Issei once more, who quickly followed him. Finally, the duo reached a set of ornate double doors, easily 3 meters tall. Riser placed his hand against the door handle and prepared to open it, only to stop. No matter what happens or is said there, please take care of my sister, Issei. As someone who understands her heartbreak, please don't do the same to her, and if you don't respond to her feelings, be kind to her. Riser said, before opening the door and motioning for Issei to enter alone. Issei walked past Riser and entered the room. As Riser tried to close the door, he heard Issei mutter one last thing. I swear. Issei whispered, before the doors closed behind him. Riser looked at the closed doors for a moment before walking away. Thank you, Hyudou Issei. Riser thought as he walked away to go see his sister. Issei entered the room and found that it was just as luxurious as the rest of the Phoenix mansion. The only difference, key to that, was the presence of a woman who looked like an older Ravel. Thank you for agreeing to meet with me on such short notice, Red Dragon. Lady Phoenix said friendlily. It was no problem at all, I honestly had nothing better to do. Issei said, studying the woman currently sitting in a rich red armchair, encrusted with rubies. Please sit down, I have also prepared some tea. Lady Phoenix said, pointing to a luxuriously similar chair in front of her, as well as a small table, holding 2 cups of tea on a pure silver tray. Issei complied with the older devil's wishes and made his way to the opulent chair before sitting down. They told me they wanted to talk to me, but not what's worrying them. Issei said, a hint of suspicion in his tone. Yes, I haven't made my intentions for this conversation known to anyone. I would also prefer that you keep the details of this conversation private, just between us. Lady Phoenix said calmly. Why would you want that? If what you say can be harmful, I will not lie to those I care about. Issei questioned sternly. Oh no, nothing harmful, although I'm glad you don't want to hurt the people close to you. Lady Phoenix said. I think for the rest of my life, I'll try not to do it considering how much I disliked it. Issei said bitterly. I extend my apologies for the recent fall you experienced. Lady Phoenix said kindly, with Issei's frown diminishing slightly. Anyway, what did you want to talk about? Issei asked, hoping to advance the conversation. Alright then. I'll be honest, but in advance, forgive me for bringing up bad memories. You see, when you broke off Riser's engagement, our house suffered for it. Lady Phoenix began, noticing that Issei's expression was bitter, remembering the past. Well, with what happened, it's been difficult for the Phoenix as far as our reputation is concerned. Lady Phoenix continues. I don't see where you're going with this. Issei intervened bluntly. Alright, let me rush to the main point of this conversation then. The Phoenix clan would like to form an alliance with you, the Red Dragon Emperor. As you can imagine, becoming an angel sent ripples through our society, so a link to the devils would go a long way to easing tensions. Lady Phoenix explained. Why should I do it? I mean, I don't have anything against you, but I don't particularly like the idea of being sucked back in, what with all this devil business things I left behind. Issei asked. Well, we would require very little from you, in fact, almost nothing at all, unless you publicly approve of us, even having a good relationship with some of our members would be enough. Lady Phoenix elaborated. So, does this have to do with Ravel? Issei asked calmly. Indeed. You see, as you may have guessed, I am familiar with the events that occurred recently, and to be honest, although I am a devil, I can also see your point of view, and I can understand why you would react the way you did. Lady Phoenix said, only for Issei to laugh dryly. Can you understand how he would react? With all due respect, the fact of the matter was, no one was made to understand me, so they don't act like they do. Issei said sarcastically. I never pretended to understand exactly how you felt, just that I could understand being hurt for not being appreciated. Of course, I have no idea how you felt personally, I was simply stating that your reaction was understandable, not your emotions at the time. Lady Phoenix reiterated, causing Issei to make a small hum, but not speak. However, your feelings are not what I wanted to discuss with you today, but the feelings of another. Lady Phoenix said calmly. Explain. Issei said simply, receiving a nod from Lady Phoenix. See, she takes responsibility for what happened. Lady Phoenix began, only for Issei to cut her off. What do you mean? Ravel had nothing to do with this at all. She didn't do anything wrong. Issei said in shock. I told her as such, but she didn't seem too nice to me. I understand that he has already told her that he has nothing against her, but if he could assure him of her innocence in the matter, he would greatly appreciate it. Lady Phoenix continued, making Issei adopt a thoughtful expression and rub his chin in thought. After a brief pause, Lady Phoenix spoke again. Would you mind if I speak honestly for a moment here? Lady Phoenix asked, to which Issei raised an eyebrow, but she nodded anyway. I hope you've realized by now, but Ravel cares about you, that is, more than a friend. Lady Phoenix said, receiving a small nod from Issei. That being said, in light of what happened, she feels unworthy of pursuing her romantic interest in you, as she blames herself for what happened to you. To this end, I only ask that you be honest with her from now on. If she returns your feelings, make this obvious, as I'm sure she knows by now, the feeling of unknowing and uncertainty can be paralyzing. Ravel is young, so if you break things off with her now, gently, he won't be hurt too much however. I simply ask that you don't follow her, if you don't return her feelings. He asked Lady Phoenix softly. I see Riser asked me something similar, and I'll give you the same general answer. I swear I won't hurt Ravel. Ravel is a friend of mine and maybe something more. I can't say for sure yet, but I like it. I will try to understand myself and my feelings for her as soon as possible as I don't want to follow her. Issei confessed honestly. That's all a mother could ask for, thank you. Lady Phoenix said calmly. Issei nodded slightly, before grabbing the cup of tea for himself, drank it, and then stood up. If we're done here, I'd rather meet up with Ravel and the others. Not that I'm rude, but while you and a few others are fine with me, I don't think the Devil Society, in general, is too pleased with me right now. Issei said. Of course, please follow me. Lady Phoenix requested, before standing up and walking towards the door, with Issei following behind her. As the duo walked through the extravagant building, Issei walked with calm detachment, thinking about their most recent conversation. Meanwhile, Lady Phoenix was content to walk in silence. After a few minutes, they reached another door, just as large and as decorated as the one Issei had entered earlier. This would be one of the rooms in this house, closer to Ravel's room. No doubt she would be here, I'm sure, after his little tour. Lady Phoenix said. Thank you. Issei said calmly, before reaching for the handle. Also, one last thing I would like to say. Ravel is still growing at this point, both mentally and physically, however, even among devils, they say, if you want to know what a daughter will look like when she grows up, look no further than her mother. Lady Phoenix said, before smiling and turning around and leaving. Whether willingly or not, Issei's eyes followed Lady Phoenix's form as she walked away, paying close attention to the sway of her hips, before shaking his head. Not exactly what I expected from Ravel and Riser's mother. Issei thought surprised. Issei opened the large door and was welcomed into a room that was just as large and well furnished as the one he had left, only in this room, Irina, Zenobia and Ravel were present. Irina and Zenobia were sitting on a three-seater sofa, in front of Ravel, in one of his 3 seats, both in luxurious red upholstery. Ravel was sitting in the middle of her couch, while Irina and Zenobia were sitting at each end of her couch. Issei, you're back. Ravel exclaimed in surprise, as she had turned to look at whoever had opened the door and seen Issei. Yeah, shouldn't I be? Issei asked confused. Oh no, of course not. I was just surprised. My mother usually talks for a while, she didn't expect you to come back for at least another hour. Ravel said embarrassedly. Well, I really didn't want to leave you alone for too long, so once we were done with the main reason of her wanting to talk to me, I requested that I leave, and then she brought me here. Issei explained. Did mother bring you herself? Ravel asked puzzled. Yeah. Issei said questioningly. Ravel jumped slightly as a small magic circle appeared next to her ear, giving a few nods here and there. After a moment, he turned to Issei. Issei, would you like to have your battle with Saraerg today? Ravel asked curtly. Sure, why not? Issei said, after a moment of reflection. In that case, Issei accepts, can we say in an hour? Ravel asked, communicating through the magic circle. After another pause, Ravel nodded to herself, before the magic circle disappeared. Well, it looks like you'll be able to fight Saraerg very soon. In fact, I'm really surprised at how quickly everything has been organized. It seems that many wanted to see the red dragon face the strongest youth. Ravel said. He doesn't seem pessimistic, but are you sure you can handle Saraerg, Issei? He is outrageously strong. Zenobia asked, rubbing her stomach in memory of her battle with Saraerg. Well, it's been a while since I've fought anyone, but considering the last person I fought was Kuroka, an outrageously strong devil in her own right, I think I can handle it. Issei said thoughtfully. You also have the advantage of being an angel. Irina added. Yes, but I'm thinking about not using my light powers against him, Issei confessed, surprising the others. Because? Irina asked confused. Well, it's no secret that most devils aren't very happy with my change, so I thought it would be best to keep things a secret. I still have the boosted gear and Senjutsu though, so I don't think they'll bother me too much. Issei explained. Well, politically, that's a wise move, but are you sure you can combat Saraerg any other way? Ravel asked carefully. Of course, I might not have the ability to promote, but with Senjutsu, my body is more resilient, my attacks are stronger, and my magical prowess is greater. It's like I'm promoting when I use it, so I really don't think it's that hard for me. Issei said. Well, no matter what, we'll be cheering you on, right? Irina asked. Yes, it will be a big battle too, added Zenobia. Where will the fight be? Issei asked. The same arena where Saraerg had his most recent battle. Ravel said hesitantly. I see, so the same place where Zenobia fought him, appropriate, I suppose. Issei said calmly. There was a long pause at this point, reflecting the discomfort of avoiding a certain Grimory's name. Should we get there now? Issei asked. Alright, it'll take a minute or two to get there if we shuttle, but it'll take a while to set up a circle to take us all in. Ravel said, before Issei plopped down next to her. Yawn, just let me know when it's ready, I could take a little nap now. Issei said tiredly, before resting his left elbow on the armrest and then resting his head on his fist, closing his eyes. Line break. Issei felt a hand caressing his cheek and leaned into it slightly. Her hand was soft, soothing, and made Issei smile. Oh, that feels good, Issei. She asked a familiar voice that made her eyes snap open. In front of him was not Rainer, but her other form, Yuma Mono. Isn't it bad enough that you tease me, now you do it 2 ways? Issei growled. Well, I just thought you might appreciate a more innocent face. Yuma said, before transforming back into Rainer. Sneers, you are anything but innocent. Issei growled. Oh come on Issei, compare me to everyone else and you know I'm just as innocent. However, I have to admit, that lady, she is certainly more verbal than me. Rainer said, with a smile. I'm not stupid. I know what Lady Phoenix was trying to do. Issei said calmly. Rainer simply touched her index finger to her nose. However, you didn't call her. Sometimes, Issei, I wonder if you like being pushed around and played with. First it was me, then Ria's, now there's another one. Rainer said mockingly, making Issei growl. I fucking hate you. Issei growled. Oh, Issei, your words hurt me, or at least they would, if they were true. Rainer said, leaning closer to Issei. I hate you. Issei insisted, even as Rainer approached him. Oh, Issei, we both know that's not the truth. Rainer said, as she approached Issei and briefly pressed her lips against his. Issei quickly pulled away and wiped his lips with his right hand, making Rainer laugh. I know you felt it, Issei. You know the truth, you just can't accept it. Rainer said mockingly, before fading away. Line break. Issei growled as he opened his eyes. That definitely wasn't one of her best dreams, but all things considered, it wasn't her worst. Issei inhaled deeply and stretched his arms up above his head before standing up. It seemed like they had left him alone to rest, since Irina, Zenobia, and Ravel were not present. Issei walked towards the door and opened it, only to be surprised at who was on the other side. Riser, what are you doing here? Issei asked confused. To take you to the transport point when you got up, of course. Riser said, before leaving, with Issei following him. So how are things going for you recently, Riser? Issei asked. Your attempt at small talk is funny. Riser said, with a smile. Well, sorry for trying to be polite. Issei growled. To answer your question, I have been training. I want to return to the raiding games sometime soon, so I am preparing both myself and my peerage. Riser said. I never would have imagined you for that type of training. Issei confessed. I wasn't, considering I'd never lost before. I had only relied on my immortality, which was usually enough. Riser. I guess not many devils have access to holy water. Issei commented, making Riser laugh again. No, but I enjoy it, it turns out. Riser admitted. Holy water? Issei asked surprised. Of course not. There's something about it that makes me feel more alive. I guess flames are not meant to stay still, but to anger and growth. Riser said calmly. Well, good for you. Maybe next time we fight, you'll have a chance to beat me. Issei joked. As I remember, we are even at 1 victory each, don't be proud. Twisted Riser. I guess that's true. We'll have to have a tiebreaker soon then. Issei said thoughtfully. Well, first, you can fight Saraerg, I will also be watching with interest. Riser said, before stopping in front of a door, once again, large and luxurious. In that case, you're in for a great show. Issei said, with a smile. I'm sure. Riser said, before opening the door. Inside, there were Ravel, Zenobia and Irina, and in the center of the room, there was a large yellow magic circle. Oh good, you're here. He's ready to go. Ravel said. Are you coming for a walk, Riser? Issei asked. No, I'll take myself. Riser said before disappearing with the use of his own magic circle. Smug. Issei growled. The four of them walked towards the center of the circle before Ravel turned on her power and the circle activated, rising from the ground and turning them into particles of light. The group materialized on a spacious floor with tables and exercise equipment around. Looks identical. Zenobia commented. Well, it wouldn't be changed, even for a one-on-one battle. In any case, we'll go watch from the stands. The battle will begin in 5 minutes and an announcement will be made. Good luck. Ravel said before the girls left Issei alone. Issei took a deep breath and waited. Calming down helped him control his senjutsu. It was probably what helped lessen his lust and gave Drake more of a break from his perverted thoughts. Without a calm mind, senjutsu was dangerous, but with a calm mind, senjutsu proved to be an impressive tool. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the special exhibition match today between the strongest youngsters, Alerberly and the Red Dragon Emperor, Issei Hyudou. The announcer declared, making Issei open his eyes. Amen. Issei said calmly as he stood up and walked towards his entrance to the stadium. Issei ignored the announcer as he promoted the event and explained the details of the battle. Issei didn't care too much. Both combatants did not give up and continued fighting with the injuries they suffered. They both knew that this fight would only end one way. With the other unconscious. Nothing else would be enough. Issei watched Sererg march off, raising his right fist in the air. Issei looked up and saw Sererg's peerage looking and cheering for his hero. Issei gave a small smile at this, before hearing his own name shout and walking out into the stadium as well. As Issei headed toward Sererg, he was surprised to hear only cheering. It seemed that, even upon becoming an angel, the masses were still on his side. However, he took a quick look, and Issei noticed that the more high-class looking devils were not happy. Well, Red Dragon, I guess we'll finally find out who is the strongest among us. Sererg said, with a fearless smile. The loudest thing you say. Issei commented. Indeed, this will be a true test of power. Sererg continued. In that case, what do you think about a purely physical battle? I must admit that it would be unfair of me to use light powers against you, and I don't think it's wise of me either. Issei proposed. Are you underestimating me, Red Dragon? Sererg asked, as his smile tightened. Of course not, but I can't be so careless anymore, especially considering where I am. Doesn't that sound like an even fight? You're Taki and my senjutsu. We both know little magic, and in a one-on-one battle, tactics aren't very useful. Why not make this a power battle? Who can beat the other with his body, without elegant or flashy tricks? Issei explained. Haha, I must admit, that sounds interesting. I really wanted to fight you as best you could, but I can understand not wanting to put yourself in danger. Sererg laughed. It's not about myself that I worry about, but rather about what might happen to others, about reaching out to me. Issei said, frowning. I see. In that case, I accept your challenge, a battle of pure strength, my blood is already boiling. Sererg declared. Awesome, in that case, shall we begin? Issei asked. Sererg smiled as a strange mark appeared on his forelimbs. Shallow lights began to emerge from Sererg's limbs before the marks disappeared. A large explosion erupted in Sererg. Wind pressure from the explosion formed a crater beneath it. Sererg's body was now bathed in a white glow. It was Taki. Issei stood in front of Sererg, inside the crater. I have to say I'm impressed. If this were before, it would be very difficult to match it, even with the boosted gear. However, I have not been sitting idly in recent weeks. Issei commented before black spiral marks spread across his arms, neck and face. But I'm not the same person as before. Issei finished as the marks seemed to break and a reddish-black glow surrounded him. The ground grew even larger around the two as the audience watched in amazement. In particular, however, a certain redeeted observer watched with a pang of regret. Issei, you have become so strong without us, Riaz thought sadly. Sererg raised an eyebrow in surprise. I must say that I have never seen energy of this color before. Sererg commented. It comes with being the Red Dragon and also who trained me. My senjutsu was quite difficult to begin with, but with the help of Drake along with my instructor, I was able to adapt it specifically to myself. It not only relies on my life force, but also Drake's, along with all previous boosted gear wielders. That's why, even if I don't directly use the boosted gear in this state, I might as well be using it anyway. Issei explained. How terrifying, you are an interesting person, Issei Hyudou. Sererg said, with a wide smile. Like you, but enough talk, now, it's time to talk with our fists. Issei said, raising her right hand in front of him, red and black energy dancing around her. I wouldn't have it any other way. Sererg said, before both of them threw their fists at each other. The crowd shook instantly as a massive explosion of light momentarily blinded them all. When the light cleared and everyone regained their vision, the crowd looked on in shock. Behind Issei's right and Saraerg's left, there were deep trenches behind them. The clash of fists tore through both combatants and brought the ground crashing down. Issei looked at his fist in surprise for a moment, returning it to his face, before smiling. Saraerg smiled too, before they both disappeared in a flash of light. The stadium was silent, as no one could see or hear anything, before a thunderous echo reverberated through the arena. Issei had thrown an elbow at Saraerg's head with his right arm, while Saraerg had blocked it with both palms. Saraerg sprang into action, bringing his left fist into an uppercut aimed directly at Issei's solar plexus, only for Issei to harshly swing his right arm downward and block the attack with his forearm, causing a massive explosion of energy in the impact. The crowd gasped at the power behind each attack, before cheering loudly. The two disappeared once more, before another thunderous explosion was heard. Saraerg and Issei had clashed, pushing against each other. It was a perfect stalemate, despite Saraerg's greater size. The two disappeared again, only to reappear, their right knees knocking against each other. In that brief moment, you could notice a smile of amusement on both of them, before they disappeared again. Numerous explosions continued to sound throughout the stadium, momentarily showing Issei and Saraerg for a moment, colliding, before disappearing again. The crowd roared in excitement, despite only seeing occasional glimpses of battle. After a few minutes of intense fighting, the duo began to slow down and stopped within 2 meters of each other, both appearing frilly and a little out of breath, but still largely unharmed. I must say, Saraerg, this is one hell of a fight. I've never faced someone like you before, someone who jumps into battle like this. Issei commented. I agree. It seems that we are both quite similar. Throwing our bodies into the fight with reckless abandon. Agreed Saraerg, with a smile. However, now that the speed test is out of the way, I think it's time to move on to the main event. Issei said, as his aura swelled around him, causing the wind to blow from his position, blowing the dust away from him. I cannot wait. Saraerg said, as his power also exploded, meeting Issei in the middle, causing a strong shock that reverberated just from his power. Line break. Wow, Issei is so strong. Irina commented in amazement, watching the two release her energy. Yes, even when I fought Saraerg, his power was tremendous, but right now, I can feel that it is even greater. I think he must have been training intensely for his fight with Issei, both before our battle and immediately after. Added Zenobia. However, I never knew Issei was so strong, Ravel muttered in surprise. Elsewhere, two women dressed in glasses were also watching the fight with interest. He's a completely different person than before. Sona commented, watching with a calculating look. Not only that, he still has to use his sacred gear. This amount of power is terrifying, both for him and for Saraerg. Added Tsubaki, the queen of Sona. Although, I'm sure he didn't plan this, but this will certainly reassure many of the higher-ups who were dissatisfied with recent events. Being so strong without even using his sacred gear, a long-iness at that, I don't think anyone wants to anger him. He added Sona, before refocusing on the fight. Line break. Well, Saraerg, since neither of us are holding back anymore, let me say this up front, this was a great fight, and I look forward to a time when we can both fight completely without restrictions. Issei said, with a smile. I hope I have some time to train before that. It really exceeded my expectations, even without using your light powers and balance breaker, it's almost a match for all my power. It's embarrassing, but also exciting. Keep getting stronger after this and I will do the same. Saraerg said, before his power intensified again, pushing Issei away and pushing him back slightly. Issei crossed his arms over his head as Saraerg swung an axe down on them. Issei quickly opened his hands and grabbed onto Saraerg's right leg and swung back, slamming Saraerg into the ground. Saraerg placed his hands in front of him, cushioning the blow, in a modified push-up position, before twisting his body, throwing Issei to the side. Issei flipped in the air, slamming his hand against the ground to slow his movement, only to find Saraerg charging with his right fist. Issei quickly charged to meet him and, at the last moment, gave a shove with his right palm to Saraerg's inner elbow, temporarily numbing it, before twisting his body and launching his left elbow into Saraerg's gut, stunning him. Saraerg leaned slightly, hovering over Issei's left shoulder, only for Issei to grab Saraerg's head in his hands and rush forward, before falling to the ground, slamming Saraerg's head into the ground, Issei's back hitting it. Also, Issei quickly flipped over Saraerg and grabbed him by the waist, before giving a powerful yank and suplexing the larger fighter over his head, slamming him head first into the ground. Issei didn't let go after his maneuver and lifted Saraerg up again, quickly turning around, before roughly lifting Saraerg into another suplex. Saraerg quickly lifted his legs and slammed them into Issei's chest, breaking his grip, before standing abruptly, blood dripping down his forehead from a cut inside his hairline. Sarerg charged at Issei again, this time, with a palm of his hand, and struck Issei's right shoulder, spinning him around, before launching a side kick into Issei's lower back, propelling him towards the wall of the building. Stadium. Issei slammed into the wall harshly, with a crunch, causing many to flinch, which sounded like breaking bones. Issei stood up from the wall, only for Sarerg to suddenly appear behind him and push his face into the wall. The wall suddenly vibrated as Issei let out a deep growl and threw his right elbow back, nailing Sarerg in his ribs, before spinning around and launching a spinning kick, sending Sarerg crashing into the stadium wall to Issei's left. Issei took the brief respite to poke his nose back into his spot, grimacing as he did so, before spitting out a wad of blood from when he had bitten his cheek, as Sarerg slammed him into the wall for the second time. Sarerg also climbed up the wall, spitting out a wad of blood, while moving his jaw carefully. Issei smiled, before rushing Sarerg again and tackling him against the wall. Issei somersaulted backwards, avoiding Sarerg's downward strike to his back, before launching a thrust kick into Sarerg's chest, knocking him into the wall, and digging deeper into the construction. Sarerg then grabbed Issei's ankle and twisted it. Issei turned with a movement to avoid having his ankle broken, but he was unable to protect himself from Sarerg's elbow that hit his knee, causing him to cry in pain, while his joint barely held up under the immense power of the. Placing his hands on the ground, Issei twisted his legs, hoping to throw Sarerg, but he released Issei's leg and slammed his fist into Issei's gut, breaking the ground beneath him and causing blood to splatter. Issei's mouth. Issei quickly recovered and grabbed Sarerg's arm, before throwing him over his legs, towards the center of the stadium. Issei pushed as much energy into his legs as they could handle and charged at Sarerg. As Sarerg's body flew through the air, Issei attacked him and delivered numerous blows along his torso, before disappearing once again and reappearing in front of where Sarerg was flying. Issei crouched down and waited for Sarerg to reach him, before launching a kick into Sarerg's back, launching him into the air. Sarerg groaned at the recent thrust he had experienced, before widening his eyes slightly, as Issei appeared above him. "Take this," Issei shouted, before slamming a double axe handle right into Sarerg's gut, sending him flying to the ground. The crowd gasped at the massive explosion that occurred as Sarerg impacted the ground. The walls themselves were already broken and would need repairs after the fight. The ground was cratered in numerous places, and many wondered if the stadium would last the game. Issei slowly fell to the ground, creating a small crater on impact as he landed and fell to one knee, breathing heavily. Blood was still running down her nose and out of her mouth. Issei took off his school jacket, wondering why he hadn't dressed in something more appropriate for fighting, as he took off his long-sleeved white dress shirt, leaving him in his red t-shirt, showing off his muscles and also quite a few welts on his back. His arms, to block Sarerg's blows, as well as the impact of launching his own attacks. His pants were also frayed, revealing his ankles. Sarerg groaned as he rose from the crater, taking a full 10 seconds to return to a vertical base. His white vest was in tatters after the attack he had suffered, and his black suit was torn in many places, revealing fresh blood dripping from his arms. "I must say this has been one of the most fun and painful fights I have ever experienced. You are truly a worthy opponent, so much so that I no longer feel worthy of witnessing your full power if I lose so much when you are disabled," Sarerg said, panting as he did so. "Well, you're not making it easy for me either." Issei laughed weakly. "I'm not sure how much longer my body will hold together, so what do you say to one last attack to finish this?" Sarerg proposes. "Sure, why not?" agreed Issei, with a smile. The crowd had been cheering wildly for the past 10 minutes, but neither Issei nor Sarerg could hear them anymore. They were too immersed in their battle to care. Issei and Sarerg gathered energy into their right fists, their auras concentrating solely on their fists, leaving the rest of their bodies. Fatigue was setting in for both of them, and just doing this was a chore, but they did it. Issei stood up and Sarerg strengthened his stance. The two faced off, both smiling fearlessly, before snapping at each other. The two raised their fists and spun, causing an energy explosion and temporarily blinding everyone. As the dots dancing in everyone's vision began to fade, they saw Issei with his right fist lodged in Sarerg's gut, a solid uppercut to the solar plexus, bending him slightly. Sarerg had launched an evil cross directly into Issei's jaw, tilting his head to the side. There was silence for a moment as the crowd waited breathlessly to see who would fall. Issei fell on his right knee, avoiding finding himself on the ground with his left fist. The crowd was about to cheer for Sarerg's victory when the devil stumbled over his feet and fell directly onto Issei's shoulder. "You're amazing, Sarerg. You were barely hanging on at the end there. You took my blow and you weren't even conscious anymore, but you still managed to land a blow on me. You are truly a worthy opponent as well," Issei muttered. Issei weakly lifted himself and Sarerg before raising his left fist towards the sky in victory. The roar of the crowd was deafening, the eardrum shattered. A fight like this was truly praiseworthy and the spectators showed it. Issei struggled to take Sererg away before Sererg's queen, a beautiful blonde-haired girl, came and took him from Issei, despite the size difference between the two. Issei breathed a sigh of relief and turned towards his waiting room. He took a step before closing his eyes and falling forward. Unconscious. Issei gave a small grunt as he came back to consciousness. It took Issei a moment to remember what had happened. After a minute, he realized that he had fainted after his fight with Sererg and fell flat on his face. "Yeah, that must have hurt," she commented, a voice that made Issei freeze. Looking to his left, Issei saw a milky white skin covered in tattered leather outfits. As her gaze traveled upward, she saw two distinct wings. Black wings. Wings of a fallen angel. Hesitantly, Issei raised her head the rest of the way and looked at the face of the person to the right of her. She could never mistake those violet eyes, along with an ironically angelic face and long black hair. "Hello Issei, did you miss me?" Rainer asked, amused. Issei simply began to look at Rainer with a scrutinizing gaze, before weakly raising his right hand to his face and pinching his cheek as hard as he could. "Oh, don't be like that. It's not a dream, I'm here with you, Issei." Leaning closer to you. Issei kept his gaze on Rainer, even as she approached him. If this was a dream, Issei was ready to wake up right now. As it was, he was exhausted, and even someone like Rainer, weak like her, would have a reasonable chance of killing him. Issei weakly tried to sit up, away from the smiling face approaching him, only to hear someone open the door to his room, causing both him and Rainer to look at it. Once the door opened, Ravel was revealed, somewhat tired, but perked up at the sight of Issei. "Issei, are you awake?" Ravel exclaimed with joy. Issei couldn't return her enthusiasm, as he looked at Rainer, who Ravel seemed completely oblivious to. "I'm awake," Issei asked slowly. "Of course you are," Ravel said, as he approached Issei from the left side of him, facing Rainer. "Your match was spectacular, however, after Sererg got carried away by his queen, you fainted and I brought you back here," Ravel explained. It was at this point that Issei observed his surroundings and noticed that for a hospital or medical area, the area was quite decorative. A lot of precious metals and stones dotted the room, even its sheets were silk. Issei looked back at Rainer before turning to Ravel. "How long have I been away?" Issei asked. "Almost 12 full hours now," Ravel said, with a hint of concern in his tone. Issei's eyes widened in surprise. "And what about Sererg?" Issei asked. "He woke up an hour ago. It's possible that you needed more time to recover because he launched the attack on your head," Ravel responded. "I see," Issei said thoughtfully. "However, I'm surprised, Issei. I mean, what's the difference between her and that retard bitch? They are both pure devils, they are both spoiled princesses, they both have loving families. Really, what's the difference? Is it blonde hair? Maybe you like younger girls. I guess you must be a masochist, considering this will probably go the same way," Rainer said, ending with a shrug. "If you feel better, you can get up and walk around a bit," Ravel said softly. Issei growled before trying to get up. Ravel quickly went to Issei's side and helped him sit up, supporting his shoulder and holding his hand. Issei turned and let his feet rest on the ground, noticing that he was still in the same clothes he had been wearing at the end of their fight, tattered pants and all. Issei stood up, with Ravel close behind him, before bending his neck to the left and rolling his right shoulder. "I'm fine," Issei said to Ravel, who gave him a small smile. "Whatever, it's not like I've been watching you this whole time," Ravel muttered, a small blush on her cheeks. Issei chuckled and stroked Ravel's hair, making her blush deepen. That must be it, you like girls, right?" Rainer joked. Issei firmly ignored her and headed towards the door, with Ravel quickly walking in front of him and opening the door herself. As Issei stepped out into the hallway, his eyes widened when he saw Rainer resting against the wall to his right. Issei quickly looked back and saw that she was no longer in the room they had just left. "Is something wrong, Issei? You forgot something?" Ravel asked worriedly. "I'm good," Issei said, giving Ravel a small smile. As the duo walked, Issei couldn't help but notice that Rainer was walking right next to him. "I mean, a girl with so much money, why would she want someone like you? Obviously because of her status, but really, it's not like she has much more to offer," Rainer said, with false sadness. Ravel took Issei back to the room where he had taken his nap before going to the game and saw Irina and Zenobia sitting there, like they had done before. "Issei, we were so worried about you," Irina exclaimed, with a nervous expression. "Yeah, that was a great fight too," added Zenobia. "Oh look, two traitors. Well, I guess that's not really true, since they were never on your side to begin with. Frankly, I'm surprised you actually believed them. It's laughable," Rainer said, amused. "I'm fine," Issei said reassuringly. Oh really? It's funny, if you had joked like that for me on our date, I might not have killed you. Rainer laughed. Anyway, with that out of the way, I was thinking it might be a good idea to go home and rest. Issei said. Yes, that would be the smartest thing. I will prepare a magic circle for you. Ravel said, before leaving Issei alone with Irina and Zenobia. To think, you honestly thought these two cared about you. Then again, you thought I cared about you too, so you're clearly a poor judge of people's intentions. I mean, I could have seen that little red-haired princess using you from a mile away. Say what you want about me, but when I turned you on, I was honest. She kept manipulating you behind her smile. I'm almost envious of how manipulative she is. Rainer said, becoming melancholy at the end. How do you feel, Issei? Irina asked worried. I told you, I'm fine, really. Issei said, with a small laugh. Rainer laughed along with Issei, but for different reasons. It's okay if you're sure. Irina said reluctantly. How did you become so strong, Issei? You didn't even use your boosted gear, yet you beat Serayarg and he's not aggressive, I know. Zenobia asked, lightly rubbing her stomach at the memory of her. Ah, betrayal is a beautiful thing, isn't it? Nothing works to push someone else, am I right, Issei? Rainer teased playfully. Just training, I guess. Senjutsu is really powerful, especially for brute force. Issei said. Of course she wants to know. After all, if she can use it to strengthen herself, why wouldn't she keep it? Rainer questioned. Ready? Ravel said, as he re-entered the room and motioned for them to follow her. I have to say, compared to the red prostitute, this one has a much nicer house. Rainer commented, looking up at the ceiling. Issei looked at Rainer, who quickly matched his gaze. That? You know it's true. They might have had dozens of butlers and maids, but they didn't have that much gold or even the amount of jewelry that I've seen in this place. Rainer said. As the four walked towards the circle, Rainer stepped aside. See you at home, Issei. Rainer laughed and blew Issei a kiss. Issei pursed his lips as his form vaporized before reappearing in his living room. Issei sighed for a moment before a figure walked out of his room. Welcome home, Issei. I've missed you. Rainer teased, putting on a fake sad expression and placing her index finger on his lips. Girls, sorry if this is abrupt, but I think I'm going to take a nap, I'm still pretty tired after all. Issei said weakly, giving a small smile. Of course, it would be best for you to rest as much as possible so that you can recover quickly. Ravel said, with the other two nodding. Thanks, I'll see you all later. Issei said, walking towards her room. Oh, is this your way of saying you want to get dirty? My Issei, I never expected you to go directly from a grueling battle to a battle in the sack. Rainer said surprised, before smiling. Issei ignored the fallen angel, but made sure to close the door to his room. Not that he helped, since he was lying in bed. Come on Issei, what is that expression? Oh, sure, paint me like one of your French girls. Rainer purred. Issei walked over to the bed and slid in next to Rainer, before turning his back on her. Oh, we're playing hard to get there, right? That's okay, I have plenty of time. I'm not going anywhere after all. Good night Issei. Rainer said sweetly, blowing Issei a kiss, before laughing. Line break. Issei woke up the next day, feeling two mounds pressing against his back. Issei stiffened, before feeling two tails wrap around his legs. Oh, this is hilarious Issei. I guess you like bad girls. Although, you could barely touch me, even after I skewered you. Rainer said, standing in front of Issei, leaning against the door. Rainer approached Issei, getting close to his face. However, I'm sure you wanted me to be the one to take your virginity, right? Don't deny it, I know the truth after all. Rainer said, with a smile. Issei tried to get up, only to discover that Kuroka had also wrapped her arms around his abdomen. I bet you think he's hugging you like that because he cares about you. I'm sorry Issei, but she only wants your children, you yourself are just a sperm donor for her. It's not that she only wanted you, after all, she also asked the white dragon. You turned out to be the only one who agreed to be breeding cattle. Sigh so sad, at least I pretended to really care for you, before I took what I wanted. Rainer said sadly. After a bit of struggling, Issei managed to free himself from Kuroka's embrace and finally decided to change his clothes. However, given her smell, she decided to shower first. As Issei grabbed her robe and carried her into the shower, she sighed as she opened the door and saw Rainer there, waiting for him. That? You saw me naked, it's only fair that I see you naked too. Rainer said calmly. Issei paused for a full minute before sighing and removing his damaged clothing. Well, it's good to see that you've improved at least a little since then. You were pretty skinny after all. No wonder you couldn't get a girl. Rainer commented. Issei gave a small huff before undressing completely and entering the shower. The shower wasn't particularly large, but could probably fit 3 people comfortably. Obviously, Issei hadn't tried that to be sure. Grabbing his shampoo and rinsing his hair, Issei scrubbed for half a minute before closing his eyes and washing the suds away. Opening his eyes again, Issei saw Rainer standing in front of him, only now she was naked. "Do you want me to wash your back, Issei? I know you want me to do it," Rainer purred. Issei turned around as he grabbed the soap and began to spread the soap over his arms and upper body. "Oh, I see how it is, you'd rather I wash something else, right, Issei?" Rainer teased from behind Issei, who resolutely ignored her. "It's nothing to be ashamed of, after all I'm a fallen angel. Seduction is our greatest talent," Rainer joked. Issei ignored Rainer, but finished as quickly as he could. After dressing in his underwear, Issei quickly realized that even though he had been away for a while, it was still the weekend. Sunday to be precise. Deciding that a trip to heaven might help, Issei grabbed a red short-sleeved shirt and black jeans, quickly dressed, and then headed to his living room. Issei concentrated, causing his halo to appear above his head. Giving a small chant, a white line split into the center of the apartment in front of him, before manifesting into a large door, which slowly opened, shedding a bright white light. Issei entered, before finding himself outside a pair of large doors, surrounded by marble structures. Calmly, Issei walked through the doors, emerging in a fluffy wide area, stretching as far as he could see, before heading to the elevator. As he advanced, he greeted everyone, who greeted him in turn. While the devils may have been unhappy with what happened, many in heaven were delighted. While the fallen angels, at one point, had the white dragon and the devils had the red dragon, heaven was left without a dragon. That's not to say they were at a disadvantage, Dulio was a true force to be reckoned with, but having a dragon of their own eased their souls. When the elevator finally reached the 6th floor, Issei headed towards where he knew the seraphs would be. It was rare for everyone to be present, and today was no exception, but both Michael and Gabriel were present and of all people, Dulio was there too. "Ah, hello Issei, I trust you've been okay," greeted Michael, once he noticed Issei. "Yes, things have been going well recently," Issei replied, with a smile. "Wow, I've never been at this level before. It's funny to think that a shameless pervert like you managed to get this far," Rainer said, walking past Issei and looking amazed. "Well, for the most part," Issei amended, his smile lowering slightly. "Is something wrong, Issei? You know I'm always willing to listen to anything you want to discuss," Gabriel said pleasantly. "Seriously? Her breasts are huge. Even bigger than mine, as much as I hate to admit it. How did someone like you get rescued by someone like her?" Rainer commented in shock. "I would very much appreciate the opportunity to speak to you soon, but I came today in the hope that you might need me. I've gotten a little worried, I'm afraid," Issei confessed nervously. I don't mind if he comes with me. It would be nice to have some company," Dulio, the Joker of Michiel said, giving his opinion. "I see, in that case, Issei, there have been some reports recently of something quite disturbing. An unnatural energy source near Romania. It is close to the vampire domain, but not within the territory itself. It caught our attention, since the sensation is similar to the release of a Longinus. We have no idea if he is controlled or not, nor who it may come from. Ideally, he should just scan the area for information, but if a conflict is inevitable, try not to let it escalate and return as quickly as possible. We have never been on good terms with the vampires, and our investigation so close to their area may cause tension," Michael explained. "Don't worry, if we need to remain undetected, I'll be able to hide both Dulio and I, with Kai," Issei said. "In that case, you can leave whenever you are ready," Michael said calmly. "Alright, let's do this Dulio," Issei applauded. "They're quite enthusiastic," Dulio commented in amusement. "What can I say? I've had a lot on my mind and this sounds just right to help distract me from my current thoughts," Issei said. "Oh, you can try, but we both know I'm going to be on your mind whether you like it or not," Rainer teased, leaning over Issei's right shoulder, whispering in his ear. Line break. Issei and Dulio were walking through a dark and slightly misty mountainous terrain. There were numerous mountains in the distance and to the west, a civilization could be seen. A rather large city by appearances, but, in fact, it was the location of the vampires. However, the two jokers were a good distance away, appearing only as small specks in the distance, to anyone trying to spot them, enhanced vision or not. "What are you eating, Dulio?" Issei asked, noticing that Dulio was eating a round, cylindrical sandwich. I think this is known as a kebab," Dulio responded, taking another bite. "And where exactly did you get it from?" Issei asked surprised. "I always carry some types of food with me. It helps make longer trips more interesting," Dulio responded. Issei blinked in confusion, before shaking his head slightly and ignoring him. Dulio and food had an interesting relationship, one that was best not attempted to understand. Issei had discovered that Dulio was a foodie, but not out of gluttony. He brought back any new and exciting foods he found to the children of various orphanages, hoping to give them a taste of the exotic cuisine and cheer them up. Issei had also heard that upon learning of a new food, Dulio would become unreachable. I just wonder what could be so important to irritate the higher-ups. Issei muttered. Funny, that rhymes. If anything, I think he would be a longinus of some kind. Dulio said calmly, taking another bite. Ugh, not another one. Why do I always meet people who are overwhelmed? Issei lamented. That's funny, considering you're the poster boy for superpowers. The powers of light, senjutsu, and the ability to increase your abilities indefinitely aren't exactly mundane. Dulio twisted happily. And complete control over the elements is nothing, is it? Issei joked. Well, I would still say that you are the most powerful in brute force. It may be more versatile, but you have the ability to perform devastating single attacks. Dulio said pleasantly while he finished his snack. Hello kettle, I'm marijuana. Issei mocked, earning a smile from Dulio. So, what's been troubling you lately, Issei? Dulio asked calmly. I bother you? How rude. I thought I was your girlfriend. Rainer said, next to Issei. Just some things from my past. Issei said, with a small growl. You know Issei, living in the past is dangerous. If we had continued doing that, our faction would perhaps no longer exist and none of us would be angels right now. Dulio said happily. Yes, I would be dead too. Issei snorted. Yeah, Issei, Gabriel wouldn't want you to act like that, especially after how much you guys bonded. Dulio said, with a sad smile. I guess Issei said quietly. The two continued walking, before feeling a spike of energy. That felt pretty powerful, don't you think? Dulio asked. Yes, and I felt an almost dragon-like presence, but it felt warped. Issei commented. Issei paused for a moment and expanded his senses, before feeling a very strong power. I'll hide us, whatever it is, it's better that we avoid it. A battle would draw too much attention. Issei said, before expanding his Kai layer, both on Dulio and on him. The duo followed the source of the power, with Issei leading the way. As they climbed up a moderate-sized hill, they saw a deep basin, with an eerie purple glow coming from it. I guess that's what we're looking for. Issei muttered. Dulio carefully looked at the area, before spreading his consciousness through the wind. It's definitely a longinus. Dulio commented seriously, before the two heard a thud, followed by the sound of strong heartbeats. Quick, get off. Issei exclaimed, throwing Dulio to the ground. It was barely fast enough, as a dark green western dragon shot into the sky after that, flying in the direction of facing the nearby vampire settlement. I guess your search is over, since that was Grendel. Drake spoke, manifesting in Issei's hand. What do you mean? Why is the search over? Issei asked. I myself fought Grendel a long time ago. That being said, after I was sealed into this team, I've also been listening to the other dragons, not just Albion. Drake started. Your point is? Issei asked. Grendel was killed by Beowulf. Drake said simply. I see. In fact, that ends our search, since only one sacred gear could be behind this. To think that the Holy Grail would be here of all places. Dulio said seriously. Jesus Christ huh? Said Issei. We'd better head back then. Issei said, to which Dulio nodded. Line break. The Holy Grail, you say? That's worrying. Michael said, as a frown crossed his gentle features. Do you know who could be behind it? Issei asked curiously. No, nothing definitive, but given how quiet the Cows Brigade has been lately, there's a chance they're behind this. Also, given the location, it could also be vampires. Michael said thoughtfully. Dulio and Issei exchanged slightly worried glances before Michael spoke again. In any case, well done on your successful mission. I suppose I and the others should deliberate on how to respond to this and also engage with the other factions. They are both free for now. Michael said, making Dulio smile. Splendid, I heard of a particularly interesting cuisine in France, so I might visit it. Dulio said happily, before giving a small bow and leaving. Issei couldn't help but laugh at his counterpart. Dulio was truly unique in how positive he could be at all times. It's a shame you're not like him. I mean, you weren't even religious when you became an angel and you were full of lust. I guess being the host of the Red Dragon Emperor will continue to save you again and again. Rainer said disappointed. Gabriel, if your offer is still available, can we go and talk? Issei asked. Gabriel smiled beautifully, and even seeing Rainer in the corner of his eye, Issei couldn't help but smile too. Gabriel's presence had become a kind of lifeline for him, and when she was happy, so was he. Of course, come, we can pass Eden. Gabriel said happily. Michael waved goodbye to the two as they headed to the elevator. The elevator ride was short, but Gabriel was humming happily and smiled at Issei again. As the two exited the elevator, Issei was surprised at what was in front of him. No matter how many times they came, Issei always held his breath a little, seeing the majestic beauty that was the Garden of Eden. A horticulturist would probably give his soul just to see the splendid sight. Numerous plants, exotic and common, decorated the entire area. The shades of green merged perfectly with the light blue, changing to purple and dark reds. Bright yellow, orange and pink flowers scattered across the much larger trees reaching upwards. Gabriel followed a well-trodden path, taking Issei to his favorite spot and the common place for their conversations. A gigantic trunk leading to numerous strong branches and abundant large foliage. "So tell me, Issei, what's troubling you?" Gabriel asked kindly as he knelt on the soft grass. Issei mirrored Gabriel and knelt down as well, taking a moment to look at the large tree next to them. "I've been having disturbing visions and unpleasant memories recently. It started with just simple phrases that caused me discomfort, but it has progressed to having conversations with my fears and even seeing apparitions," Issei said uncomfortably. "I see. I know it may be difficult for you, Issei, but the more honest you are with me, the more I can help you," Gabriel said patiently, causing Issei to sigh. "I've been watching and listening to Rainer again," Issei confessed tiredly, feeling all of his strength slipping away at the simple admission. Gabriel's beautiful smile dropped momentarily before returning to normal. "If it's not too much for you, I would like to know more," Gabriel requested kindly. "Well, before, it was the exact same line she told me before she killed me, but recently I started having conversations with her in my dreams after yesterday. I started seeing her form in my mind, speaking and commenting in everything that surrounds me. Even now, I can see the form of her standing next to you, looking at me with a teasing smile," Issei said tiredly. Gabriel frowned at this, looking around her briefly and, in fact, seeing no one. "I see," Gabriel commented. "Look, now she's going to write you off like a crazy person and throw you away like everyone else," Rainer commented happily, making her frown at what Gabriel did next. Gabriel stood up and approached Issei, kneeling next to him and bringing his head to the space between her breast and his right shoulder, with his left hand resting his head gently against it, while his right hand gently caressed the part back of his back. Her head. "Issei. No matter what, Rainer is a part of you. As unfortunate as it is the truth," Gabriel began, causing Issei to sigh softly. "However, she does not define you. You are a special person, Issei," Gabriel continued. "Yes, special for your gauntlet," Rainer teased, with a smile, which she wiped from her face as Gabriel continued. "It has nothing to do with being Drake's host, but rather because of your heart. Even before, when his mind was flooded with lust, he was still kind and affectionate. You fought to protect your friend solely because you felt it was the right thing to do, not out of a sense of duty," Gabriel said calmly, removing Issei's head from her and looking him in the eyes. "Yeah, look how that worked for you," Rainer mocked. "I know things didn't turn out the way you would have liked, and I am deeply sorry for what you had to endure, but you suffered and survived because you are strong," Gabriel finished, smiling at Issei happily. "I only survived because you reincarnated me," Issei muttered weakly. "That may be the case, but not everyone can become an Issei angel. There are 3 ways, as I'm sure you know. The first, through devout worship, the second, through strong faith, and the third, remember Issei," Gabriel asked calmly. "Have a kind heart," Issei said, with a small smile, making Rainer growl. "Exactly, you're the one who survived. You are the one who persisted and you are the one who stayed strong. Issei, like I said before, no matter what happens, you will always have my love. It is yours and I will never take it from you. Remember Issei, although you have suffered much and gained little, I will never ask you for more than you can give, and you will have my love forever. Remember those words, Issei. Engrave them in your heart, and no matter what happens, no matter what trials and tribulations you may face, you will always have me by your side. That's my guarantee to you. While Rainer may be a part of you, he also remembers that I am too. Even if she troubles your heart and mind with doubts, she remembers that I will always be here for you," Gabriel said kindly. The sincerity in Gabriel's words warmed Issei's heart. True, Rainer was still there, slightly to the side and sporting a grimace as she vomited, but Issei couldn't care less. "Thank you, Gabriel. That really helped a lot," Issei said softly. Gabriel smiled and kissed Issei on the top of his head. "Of course, Issei, you don't have to worry. I'll be with you forever. Through all of this, you can always come to me if your heart is heavy," Gabriel said with a smile. Issei wasn't quite sure what happened to him at that moment and would still be on his mind for weeks to come, but without warning, Issei leaned forward and kissed Gabriel, directly on her lips. Gabriel was surprised by the action, and even the appearance of Rainer seemed stunned. Issei quickly retracted his head, a huge blush on her face. "Forgive me, Gabriel, I'm not sure what happened to me," Issei stammered nervously, only for Gabriel to laugh softly. "It's okay, Issei. I told you, no matter what, you have my love," Angels are not emotionless beings. If we were, the fallen would never have existed. Gabriel said reassuringly. Issei chanced a quick glance at Gabriel and seeing his smile, he relaxed a little. I see. Issei said, calming down a bit. Issei, if you love me that way, don't be ashamed. When Father, Yahweh, created Adam and Eve in this same garden, it was always the natural way of things for the man to love the woman and for the woman to love the man. I see no reason why we can't continue the same intimate relationship, as I know your heart is pure and you know mine. Gabriel said softly. Are you sure? Issei asked surprised. Of course. You have suffered much and gained little, but if being with me soothes your soul, I would love to explore our feelings together. Gabriel responded happily. Issei simply smiled. I would like that. Issei said happily. Line break. Gabriel, is there something you want to tell me? Michael asked once Gabriel returned without Issei. Issei has been experiencing uncomfortable flashbacks from his past. Gabriel explained. I see. Michael said solemnly. I think I was able to calm his heart, so much so that he has officially expressed his interest in pursuing a romantic relationship with me. Gabriel said. I see. Michael said surprised, his eyes widened a little. Yes, I could tell that after a few weeks of interacting with me, he had started to develop feelings, but I didn't expect them to grow to this level. Gabriel commented thoughtfully. What are your feelings about it? Michael asked curiously. I can comfortably say that I love Issei, like I love everyone. If it's more than that, I'm not sure, but I'm willing to try. We are beings of love after all. Gabriel said. I see. I wish you the best then. It's rare for angels to interact like that, but if it's through love, I'm sure the outcome will be good. Michael said optimistically. Line break. Issei, meanwhile, was still in shock at what he had done. I kissed Gabriel. Issei thought in shock. What the hell? How can you kiss someone else, with me standing there? Rainer shouted indignantly. I kissed Gabriel, I really did. Issei continued, completely ignoring Rainer. Hey. Pay attention to me. Rainer snapped, snapping her fingers in front of Issei as he sat on his couch, motionless. I actually kissed Gabriel, me. Issei muttered out loud. There was a loud thud outside Issei's door before someone quickly entered his house and grabbed him by the collar. What did you say? Azazel asked, his eyes almost popping out of his head. I kissed Gabriel. Issei muttered, oblivious to Azazel completely. Azazel looked at Issei in shock for a minute before hugging him. Issei. I hereby declare you the only true heir of my will. My son. I am so proud of you. Azazel shouted through tears. Rainer just sighed in the background. Great, now the only person who can really hear me is a fucking vegetable. Rainer growled sourly. Line break. It had taken Issei the rest of the day to finally recover, and as he did, he was surprised to see a diamond frame on his table, featuring both him and Azazel. The only problem was that Issei didn't remember taking the photo. I think I missed something. Issei thought. You kissed Gabriel, sending Azazel into a massive display of pride. He also named you his successor, heir to his will, a true son and idol from this moment on. Drake said. Oh wait, what? Issei asked in shock. However, I must say that I never expected you to do something so daring. Maybe like his former incarnation of lust, but not now. I must have lost something for this to overcome me. Drake commented. Issei blinked before seeing a hand being waved in front of his face, only to turn around and see Rainer's annoyed face. Finally. Do you have any idea how long I've been trying to get you to snap out of it? Sheesh, just because she's a seraph doesn't mean you should shut down completely. After all, she's just another girl. How is she different from the others? Rainer shouted in irritation. Issei smiled at this. Not because Gabriel was just another girl, but because Rainer was irritated. You know, I'd like to see a jealous Rainer wherever I go. Issei thought. Partner, do you realize that she is just a manifestation of your mind? Drake questioned. Didn't stop her from making me feel insecure. Issei said uncomfortably. You know I can hear them both. They both suck. Rainer snorted. Your fragile mental stability aside, partner, you should probably go to bed since it's midnight and you have school tomorrow. Drake said. Issei nodded mentally before heading to his room, only to see a huge photo of a smiling Azazel, giving him a thumbs up, hanging on his wall. Issei's eye twitched in place before he gave a defeated sigh. You know what, nothing can get me down right now. Yawn. Well, emotionally, I need a nap. Issei muttered before plopping down on his bed and pulling the covers over himself. Line break. Morning came quickly for Issei, and he woke up alone for a change. Come on, get up now. Rainer complained unhappily. Well, almost alone. Issei climbed out of bed without much fanfare before grabbing another version of his school uniform. It was a good thing he had a spare, since his other pair was nothing more than shredded and tattered material now. Quickly dressing, Issei headed to school, ignoring the figure that tried to get his attention. Issei walked over to his seat and sat there, reflecting on what he had done. I hope I didn't mess things up. I mean, maybe Gabriel was just being nice, Issei thought. Yeah. I knew it. You know I'm the only one who would show any interest in you. Rainer declared triumphantly. With all due respect, partner. I'm not even sure if a pure angel understands romantic interactions. A fallen angel, sure, but I think Gabriel may be too innocent. Drake commented. Look, Drake agrees with me. Rainer said, jumping onto Issei's desk, swinging her legs to the side playfully. However, in my opinion, I think if one person could make an angel understand that kind of love, it would be you. Especially if that angel is Gabriel, from what I've seen. I believe you are capable of doing what no one has done before. Drake continues. Now, why did you say that now, Drake? Rainer complained. I am not going to stoop to having a discussion with imagination of my host's agitated mind. Drake mocked. But by answering me just now, you did. Rainer teased playfully. Drake grumbled at this, but said nothing else, causing Rainer to laugh before focusing on the arriving students. Let's see, standard-looking male student, standard-looking male student, standard-looking male student, standard-looking female student with larger-than-average breasts, standard-looking female student with pink hair, those two seem to be looking for something, a funny female student with standard-looking glasses, a creepy-looking male student with glasses. Rainer questioned, commenting on each student as they entered the classroom. Issei gave a small sigh at Rainer's murmurs. Acknowledging that she wasn't real, but was, in fact, part of his mind, was strange but making hearing her even stranger. Drake, yes, Rainer is part of my mind. Does that mean that everything she says is something I have thought or really think? Issei questioned. I'll answer that. Yes. Everything I say is true, or at least part of you thinks it is. That being said, of all the manifestations I must take, the fact that I am in this form means that you have not truly left me aside. You could have thought of Volley or Rise or even that promiscuous deed, but you choose me, well, your mind did anyway. Oh, and look who just arrived. Rainer said calmly, before calmly looking at the one who just arrived. Issei didn't look, but he felt the individual's healing ability and knew who it was immediately. Do you think he feels bad? I doubt it. I mean, have you lost count of how many times you fought over her? Because she died, or did you think she died? Obviously, when I dated her she died, but you actually went to Juggernaut Drive because of that ungrateful nun. I mean, you drastically reduced your life, irreversibly, if it weren't for that cat and for what? The girl who turned on you without caring about your feelings. Rainer said darkly. Oh, sure, she can heal a little boy's scraped knee, but Issei's poor heart torn to pieces. Ha, I'm almost glad she died. Rainer said mockingly, having adjusted her position on Issei's desk so that her elbows were resting on the table, palms open together, resting her head under her chin, while her legs flailed in the air, above her lower back. You know, Issei, I almost felt sorry for killing you. It wasn't much, but she was there. I wonder how sorry she is for what she did to you. No one did more for her than you. Sure, the little princess reincarnated you, but you pushed for it, and then, you protected her with everything you had, even sacrificing your life. Only for her to spit in your face. Rainer continued. Issei's expression couldn't help but change into a frown as he recognized the cold truth behind Rainer's words. He had done a lot for the former nun, but she had carelessly cast him aside. Hey Issei, what's up with your frown? Is one of your girlfriends dumping you? Mitsuda asked, initially worried, before turning to jealousy. No, just a bad memory. Issei said, frowning, momentarily attracting the gaze of a certain blonde before she looked away in embarrassment. That's something I've been wondering, what happened between you and Asia? I was sure you were going to claim the pure maiden for yourself. Motohama interrupted, his glasses shining in the light. Yeah, all that hard work I put into teaching her about skinship was wasted. Kiryu added. You should ask her then. Issei growled. I did, but she won't say it. Kiryu responded, frowning. So, forget it, I don't want to talk about it, and if she doesn't want to say it, just deal with it. Issei said bitterly, pursing her lips slightly. You sound pretty grumpy, Issei. What's wrong? Haven't you had any releases lately? Mitsuda asked, causing Murayama and Katus's listeners to shudder. Perverts. Murayama shouted angrily. Don't bother us, or we'll be there spying on you today. Motohama warned, with a creepy smile, which made Katus shiver. Wait, you mean you guys haven't been spying recently? Issei asked in shock, with a stunned expression. No, we decided to analyze what you said about us being attractive to women with our own abilities. Mitsuda replied, with Motohama nodding, surprising Issei. Really? Issei questioned. Yes, Motohama even got a girl's number. It was just a 6, nothing too impressive, but then again, when you get nothing, even a 6 becomes a 10. Mitsuda recounted, with Motohama puffing out her chest with pride. Really? That is surprising. Kiryu joked. Hey, you're just jealous, you barely have 6 points. So don't get your hopes up. Really, this is me being nice, you're really a 5, but I'll give you 1 point for your skill. Motohama said contemptuously. Wow, I really must have died because I never would have thought something like that was possible when I was alive. Rainer commented in shock, pushing himself up onto the desk and resting on her left thigh, with his left hand supporting her. Actually, I'm quite surprised. Issei muttered. Before a conversation could be started, the teacher walked in and everyone took their seats. I don't even know why you bother coming to this place. I mean, what does it matter if you can't differentiate equations, when you could literally destroy this entire school and even the city if you wanted to? You could be doing much better things. Rainer sighed dramatically. Issei actually took a moment to reflect on Rainer's words, before shrugging. Rainer sighed once more, before turning around, so she was facing Issei directly. Issei kept his attention at the front of the class, ignoring the restless fallen angel, who was still restless on his desk. When the bell rang, Rainer clapped her hands and jumped off the desk, while Issei slowly stood up. Oh, don't be like that, I really want to see some familiar faces. Maybe the bitch that killed me will show up. Rainer chuckled. As if a deity was on Rainer's side, leaving his classroom, Issei walked out, only to see a red-haired figure directly in front of him. Issei took a brief moment to look into the blue eyes, which he was previously hypnotized with, only to find them igniting a soft anger within his heart, which he thought had been extinguished. Issei Irias began, but Issei walked past the girl, completely ignoring her, surprising those who had seen the action who would never have expected something like this. Ria's shoulders slumped at this, and she headed towards the club sadly. Oh, the silent treatment, appropriate for one who is familiar with the generous attention showered upon him, both in this world and in his true home. Rainer said approvingly. Issei didn't respond, but his facial expression hardened slightly. Issei headed towards a tree, near where he and his friends had previously looked at the kendo club. Positioning himself beneath him, Issei closed his eyes and tried to relax. Anything else you're not telling us, Issei? Motohama asked curiously, with Mitsuda leaning over his shoulder. It's no big deal. Issei growled. Well, if you're ready to see something, then watch and learn boy. Mitsuda said, with a smile, before heading to a familiar place, which Issei had stopped visiting a long time ago. Is he really going to start spying again? Issei asked, with a sigh. Just look, he actually has a plan this time, a pretty interesting one. Motohama said, with a smile. Issei watched as Mitsuda headed towards the kendo club's locker room, knowing that they would now change into their uniforms. Kendo girls. Come here. Mitsuda shouted, making Issei look at him as if he had gone crazy. Did you find out he was a masochist something like that? Issei asked in shock. Just wait. Silence Motohama. As expected, it took less than half a minute for the members to come out, prominently among them, Murayama and Katis. Now, I will have victory on this day because I have. This would. Mitsuda shouted, disgusting some of his members as he reached for his waist before pulling out a shinai from the back of his pants that had been kept hidden along his back. Issei watched in undisguised shock as Mitsuda quickly, if ungracefully, dodged the kendo club's attacks, occasionally hitting some members on the bottom with his weapon when he could, particularly Katis, whose face was beginning to match the color of your hair. Stop doing that. Katis shouted after Mitsuda had hit her from behind her for the 10th time. Never, until one of you agrees to go out with me. Mitsuda joked. In your dreams. Katis shouted as she attacked Mitsuda angrily. The battle persisted for a few more minutes, with Issei beginning to notice something. I think he has a thing for the pink-haired girl, that's about the 24th or 25th time he hit her from behind, while everyone else is at half a dozen. Rainer commented. 4. Why the hell are you hitting me more? Katis roared, a furious blush on her face. It is not obvious. You're the real target in my eyes. Your friends are attractive, but you will be my Momo. Mitsuda declared. Really? He compares the girl he is interested in to an audiovisual idol. Rainer muttered disdainfully. Well, they both have pink hair, maybe that's something more attractive to him than a loli. Issei thought. Issei and Motohama continued to watch as the two exchanged blows, with the other kendo club member looking on in confusion at this turn of events. Katis continued to become more and more embarrassed with every blow Mitsuda landed on her before finally reaching her breaking point. Enough. Curse. I'll go on a date with you if you never spy on me again and never hit me with that damn stick again. Katis shouted, receiving surprised cries from the other kendo club members and triumphant smiles from Mitsuda and Motohama. Ha ha. A fair price to pay, so be it. Mitsuda declared. Well. Kata said, approaching Mitsuda until she was only half a meter away from him. You will pick me up in front of the school gates this Saturday at noon, Kata ordered. Of course, Mitsuda said happily. Oh, and one last thing, Kata said before a quick movement caught Mitsuda by surprise and he found lodged wood right where he would normally grow his own wood. That was for my ass, motherfucker, Kata shouted furiously as Mitsuda knelt down. Ugh, you're going to regret this when I need this thing to work at full capacity to give us children, Mitsuda moaned behind Kata's back. I'm surprised it actually worked, Rainer commented with Issei non-verbally agreeing as her face was stunned, her mouth open and her eyes even wider. Look, I told you I had a plan. However, that was a success that was probably a surprise to him, Motohama said amused. I didn't think he could pull it off but he actually did. I am sincerely impressed, Issei said slowly. That's one small step for me, one giant leap for perverts everywhere. She groaned Mitsuda after he limped towards Issei and Motohama. If you wore a hat, I'd tip you, Mitsuda. That was by far one of the stupidest things I've ever seen you do but it worked, Issei said in shock, making Mitsuda smile. I planned this over the weekend. She always works with it tsundere in most shows and Kata seemed like a prime candidate but damn, she has a bad temper. No porn for the rest of the week for me, Mitsuda said with a small groan. I guess now I understand why they're your friends. They are as perverted as you and twice as stupid and lucky. Rainer sighed, to which Issei smiled. Now you just have to figure out how to keep things from crashing and burning. Issei applauded. Well, your first date can't be as interesting as ours, nah, Issei. Rainer purred, making Issei frown momentarily before her smile reappeared. Just let me give you some advice. Don't take her to a park at the end of your date, it won't end well, Issei said, with his two friends looking at him in confusion before nodding at his wise advice. The park where things began for Issei. He thought of a girl with white hair who was eavesdropping. Line break. The next day of school for Issei started out as normal as ever. The students slowly settled into their seats, discussing the latest gossip, which in this case actually dealt with the perverted trio. Many students were also resting, too tired to be at school so early. Some also hiddenly observed the subjects of the gossip. Lastly, to top it all off, Rainer was resting on Issei's desk. Completely normal. Well, it was normal for Issei, at least lately. I still can't believe he got a girl to go out with him. Didn't they threaten to rape girls with their eyes? How the hell does anyone ignore that? Rainer asked, still in shock. As Cadis entered the classroom, the chatter temporarily calmed down, but once he sat down and didn't display any strange behavior, everyone calmed down, with some grunting and real disappointment. What attracted some interested glances was when a beautiful brunette who no one could recognize entered the room. Hey, Issei, is he a new student? Mitsuda asked. Why would I know? Issei asked puzzled. Well, recently, all the new students who showed up knew you. Just thought you might have known this one too. In fact, we thought you were going to slowly bring your harem to school. Mitsuda confessed embarrassedly. Oh, I know who it is. This will be fun. Rainer said, confusing Issei. How does Rainer know someone I don't know if she's part of me? Issei thought confused. Well, clearly I'm the smart part of you, since that girl, it's Kiryu. Rainer responded. Kiryu? Issei shouted in shock, making some look at him in confusion. Ah, it is indeed me, Issei. I'm surprised you were the first to notice, said the girl, now revealed to be not a new student, but rather Aika Kiryu, who, from the looks of it, had an incredible makeover. The girl took out a familiar pair of pink glasses and put them on, but that still wasn't enough for some people. Lies. There's no way it's Kiryu. Kiryu had 5 points, this is a solid 9. Motohama shouted in shock, his glasses shining. I'm glad you think that. To tell the truth, I never cared much about appearances, but a 5. I couldn't stand that with my arms crossed. Kiryu said, twirling some of her hair around her right index finger. Kiryu had changed his hairstyle, losing his twin pigtails. She now had her hair slightly curled on the right side of her, while her hair on the left side of her was left straight and cascaded over her shoulders. Her bangs had also been pulled back, revealing her forehead and the rest of her face, and now she was pulled back and tied together with a lime green ribbon that matched her eyes. Impossible, the numbers it can't be. Motohama muttered in denial. I have to admit, I respect him. She couldn't be bothered to dress for school, but when people question her appearance, she shuts them up in the best way possible. Rainer said respectfully. Now, let's face it, Motohama, my glasses are more powerful than yours, and you just said that I'm a 9, well to me, you're just a 6 but play your cards right and maybe we can see what happens when you put a 6 with a 9. Kiryu smiled, blushing, while some girls nearby understood the implication. Pretty bold too, I like it. Rainer added, amused by the situation. Line break. This is hilarious Motohama, Kiryu completely destroyed you in front of the entire class. Issei laughed, with Mitsuda laughing too. No, I'll accept that it was Kiryu in that classroom. Cried Motohama. Come on, you measured it yourself and your glasses never lie. Mitsuda commented, earning a nod of agreement from Issei. But, if my glasses couldn't see the hidden potential of a 5 being a 9, how much have I missed? Mitsuda shouted in shock. Well, for one thing, you might realize that a girl's numbers don't define her. Issei said, making Mitsuda and Motohama look at him in shock. That? Why are you looking at me like that? It's true. You can't have sex with a girl for the rest of your life. There are other things to do. Issei defended. That's right, you can be stabbed by them, reincarnated by them, sacrifice your arm for them, die for them again, sacrifice your life force for them, be betrayed by them, stop me at any time if you've heard everything. Rainer joked. To think, it would be Issei of you three, with a real brain. Joked Kiryu, as she approached the three. I refuse to believe this is Kiryu. Motohama sputtered, before feeling 2 hands resting on his shoulders. Motohama, face it, you lost, Kiryu humiliated your glasses. Issei said, with Mitsuda nodding his head. Motohama lowered his head at this, broken by his defeat. Oh, don't be a sore loser Motohama, besides, you might get a date with this 9. Kiryu said, with a smile, making the 3 of them look at her in surprise. I talked to Caddis, and she would prefer to have company on her date, so I offered to have a double date between you, me, Mitsuda and her. So. What do you think? Kiryu asked. Just take the Motohama offer. I'm not just humiliating you, let's be honest, you're the one who said I had 9 points, this is your best chance. Issei said watching his friend hesitate. Fine, but I'll also upgrade from a 6. I can't stand this with my arms crossed. Motohama declared. It's okay, you always have to stand and charge, but you need to have some real strength, like Mitsuda and Issei for that. Kiryu smiled. I'll show you. My perverted mind knows more than anyone else in this country. Motohama declared. That might not be a good thing, you know. Issei murmured in oblivious pity, palming her face as she did so. In that case, noon on Saturday, don't be late. Kiryu said, before turning around and leaving. Issei watched Kiryu leave for a moment before realizing something. It finally happened. The kinky threesome has girls for once real girls. Issei shouted triumphantly. Success. Motohama and Mitsuda cried. Although, you guys are still a long way from having a harem, well I have Issei said, trailing off towards the end as he started counting his fingers. Mitsuda and Motohama watched as Issei counted, and after he continued counting more than 4, they growled in annoyance. Issei. Shouted the duo, causing Issei to laugh heartily. I wonder if they would say that, knowing that you've already died once and almost did recently. Rainer joked, but Issei continued laughing. The perverted trio had girls real girls must have been a sign of the apocalypse. Well that's it guys. Part 2 is over. If you enjoyed the part 2, don't forget to smash that like button and share this part with your friends. See you all in the part 3.